Hey everybody, this is Pooka, and I'm back with another game I played on the Pokemon trading card game online. Now, this game is, well, I'll be honest, this is not a real deck. This is sort of a deck I threw together for fun. You know, it's kind of an entertaining deck to play. And I'm playing against goGoGOAL, who actually has quite a few wins on the PTCGO online victory system, however you want to put it. He's just got a lot of wins. He's got over 900 wins, and looks like all he does is play Zekrom over and over, and keeps winning that way. So my deck is going to be a little different. It's titled Cubone Rush. So basically, oh, and he says I'm on top cut, so he might actually be watching as I'm playing this game. But basically this deck is just aim to get 4 Marowaks in the discard pile, activating Cubone's Lonely Bone Pokebody, and then, oh, hold on while I enable the coin flip animation, and then all you do is use Bone Rush, and you try to flip heads, and you try to win, and that's what I try to do here. So let's go for a Bone Rush, and it's tails, unfortunately. So, obviously this is not a serious deck. You flip heads, you do damage, you flip tails, and you do no damage, so, that's pretty much the whole basis of the deck. You just go with Cubone, hope for the best. That's the strategy. It's just fun because, you know, you just sit there with a Cubone and you start flipping coins, and sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. So we see he plays a dual ball. He actually grabs a Cleffa, which is kind of strange. I don't see too many Cleffas in ZPS decks or normal ZPS decks. Anything with Zekrom, Patchy, Shaman normally does not run Cleffa, and looks like he's got one though. So he does play a Switch and Juniper for 7, so there's still a threat of the turn 1 Pachirisu, 2 Lightning, and then Shaman to move it over to Zekrom. That's still a threat. Now, something interesting to note about this matchup is Cubone, after I have 4 Marowak in the discard pile, Cubone actually does not get knocked out in one hit by Bolt Strike from Zekrom. It takes 80 less damage because of the Lonely Bone Pokebody, and it also resists Lightning. So it actually only takes 20 damage from a Bolt Strike when you have 4 Marowaks in the discard pile. So we can actually see sort of a funny game where maybe Cubone doesn't have such a bad matchup here. Obviously, Cubone is horrible against things that can knock it out in one hit. Pretty much anything that can do 120 damage or more. Things like Reshiram, you know, some Emboar stuff, water Pokemon as well. You know, anything that can just hit 120 damage or higher, and they're not lightning, they'll knock me out in one hit. So we'll see. He doesn't really know what to do. He doesn't want to leave Cleffa up to get knocked out. He thinks about it, and then he retreats, sends up Zekrom, and passes. So, alright, I play a Sage's Training. I do get 1 Marowak in those 5 cards, so I don't want to take the Marowak because this is a Cubone deck. We don't use Marowak. We just attack with Bone Rush. So I want to get those in the discard, not attack with them. So I take a Noctowl and Junk Arm. I do play Noctowl just because it's kind of like a neutral Pokemon that just draws cards. Doesn't really do much, but it, you know, you need more basics. You need to take up some space, so Noctowl's here. So here we go for another Bone Rush. And, you know, it takes 4 heads for a knockout. But once again, I got tails, so it's going to be a long battle, that's for sure. You got to knock out 6 things with Cubone. You know, if it takes 3 heads to knock out 1 Zekrom, it's actually 4 heads, I'm sorry. If you're thinking I have to take 6 prizes, flipping 4 heads every time, that's, what, 24 heads you need to flip in order to win the game? And that's not good, because you got to keep in mind that you don't get to flip again if you flip tails. So it could take like 30, 40 attacks before you actually win a game with Cubone, if you're that unlucky. So yeah, who knows? It's going to be tough. Fortunately, he does damage himself with Bolt Strike, but I'm going to need more than that to have a chance here, I think. So he takes the first prize. Bolt strikes me for a knockout. You know, I don't have all those Marowaks in there quite yet, so you know, I don't have access to everything. So here I have to make a decision. What's the best way to go about getting Marowak in the discard pile? So I might have to actually buy a turn here with Eek instead of just Bone Rushing again, because I don't want to just get knocked out by a Bolt Strike and lose all my Cubones. So I Collector for 2 Cubones and a Noctowl. It's Communication, a Cubone back in the deck. Basically, I'm just going to grab a Marowak from my deck. You see there's 3 left, so none of them are prized. And then I'll play a Junk Arm to put it in the discard pile. Making this my second Marowak in there. So now I'm taking 40 less damage every time. And I have a decision. I can actually play a Defender and, well, I wouldn't really do much. So Defender's not that great. I do have Communication as well. So next turn, I can Communication for another Marowak and then Juniper it away. But here I'm going to go for Bone Rush. I decided to take a risk because when you play Cubone, you go for it. That's all there is to it. You take every risk possible because Cubone, he takes chances. He lives his life on the edge. And that's what we're going to do here. So I got Tails again. That makes it 0 for 3 for Bone Rush so far. Not looking good for our little hero Cubone. But, you know, it's not over yet. Once those 4 Marowaks hit the discard pile, it's gonna be tough for him to actually start taking prizes because, you know, he can only Bolt Strike for 20. I mean, he can double plus power for a knockout, but he's gonna run out of resources eventually. He can't knock out too many Cubones, I don't think. One of the issues I have to worry about, though, is when I use Bone Rush. Let's say right now I flip, and actually, he makes a big mistake here. He actually used Outrage thinking he would knock out Cubone and completely forgot about Lonely Bone. So, kind of a blunder there that's going to give me an opening. That's part of the reason why Cubone can steal a win. People don't understand that it actually does have a Poke Body. That's the whole point of the deck. So here we're going to see I actually get a free turn. What I was going to say though is, say I used Bone Rush right now and I flipped 2 heads. Now that would do 80 damage, putting Zekrom at 120 damage, meaning Outrage would do 140 and still knock me out. So that's something I gotta look out for. Something else I gotta look out for is I better not play that Ruins of Elf in my hand because that makes it so Zekrom can knock me out in one hit with Bolt Strike. So here I got pretty much a perfect hand off my Juniper. I got a Junk Arm, a Marowak, and a Communication. I'm gonna be able to get everything I could ever want in this game out on this turn. So, I believe I have 3 Marowaks in the discard pile at this point. Yep, so I'll be able to get the 4th one with Junk Arm. I'll be able to get Noctowl out as well to start drawing some cards. And, Cubone is in full force here. What else can you say? So, thankfully I did notice that Ruins of Elf would lose me the game. So I discard that and a Marowak. There are now 4 Marowaks in my discard pile. And I'm just going to put a Defender on Cubone just in case I do flip those 2 heads. That would be a disaster. So I get Tails again. So Bone Rush not being too effective right now. I'm 0 for 4. I have not done any damage so far this game. And it's looking bad. I don't know how I'm going to win the game. Besides, well, starting to flip heads. Well, that's kind of silly. I do know how I'm going to win. I need to flip heads. That's pretty much the only way you win. You flip heads. If you flip tails, you lose because you don't do damage. You just Bone Rush all day, every day. And, alright. So he catches out the Noctowl. Something I have to be weary of at this point is the fact that he can catch your benched Pokemon. So I have to play as few Pokemon down as possible and avoid catcher knockouts. I have to force him to knock out Cubones only, because he's going to run out of resources, I think, if he just keeps knocking out Cubones. So here I'll have to go for another Bone Rush. We'll see what happens there. Now something I'm going to have to keep in mind here is it could get to a point where just neither of us knock each other out. He could just keep using Bolt Strike, and I could keep getting Tails for Bone Rush. In that case, one of us might deck out. So I have to pay attention to that. I also played a Sage there for a potion, which is gonna be helpful. I mean, he can Bolt Strike me, and then oh, here we go, Bone Rush. Hold on, hold that thought. We got 1, we got 2, and we got 3. So score 1 for Cubone. Oh, we got 4. We're still going. All right, so there we go. Cubone knocks out Zekrom. Bone Rush, 160 damage. There we go. We're back in the game. So I was gonna say, Bolt Strike. It would do 20 damage to me, and then I can just play a potion, heal it off, and as you see there, oh, he has 797 wins, and he's struggling with Cubone here. Cubone is a mighty force, and he's not to be taken lightly. So we're gonna see another Zekrom, but is my opponent gonna be able to deal with the Cubone onslaught? As you can see, there are 3 out on my field. You know, I have Revives in my deck, I have Potion, I have Defender. How's he gonna get through this big wall of Cubone? So that's gonna be the struggle for my opponent, and for me, the struggle is gonna be flipping heads, which has usually been a struggle of mine. So it's gonna be a pretty close game. I can feel that. So right now we have another Zekrom. We have 1 fully powered, and the only way he's going to get knockouts at this point is a double plus power. And as you can see, there's Lonely Bone. There's good old Cubone. So the only way he's going to get knockouts is if he plays 2 plus powers and then Bolt Strike for, well, it'll end up being 40, because it'll be 140 minus 100. Or he can catch your Cleffa. That'll be a knockout. But here we see a plus power, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, not my Cubone. Yeah, so there's a Junk Arm as well. So discards another Patchy and a Shaman, and there's the plus power. So there's going to be 2 plus powers, and I will be knocked out this turn, unfortunately. But I have a rescue on the Cubone. It's coming back. I'm not going to be running out of Cubones anytime soon. So I'm just taking a look to see what's in his discard at this point. I can see there's some plus power, Junk Arm, Catcher. The thing I'm looking for is plus powers and Catcher. Well, actually, plus power and Junk Arm. So the only way he's gonna keep up with me is to keep knocking those things out, and just double plus power over and over. But obviously, you're gonna run out of resources eventually. I get Tails for that Bone Rush. And, you know, it's still just Cubone versus the world. How do you deal with this? I mean, his deck is as simple as it gets. It's just Zekrom, Patchy, Shaman, nothing else. He doesn't even run Tornadus. He just focuses on getting Zekrom turn 1, which he does very often. And, unfortunately, when you come up against Cubone, your main attacker doesn't do very well against Cubone, so how do you go about this? How do you deal with Cubone? So, here we see him play a Sage, and, you know, I'm still trying to think about, maybe he'll deck out. You know, that Sage is important. I got 13 in my deck, 16 in his deck. If he wants to keep playing plus powers and Junk Arms, he's going to have to burn through a lot of cards. So, there's a Junk Arm. So, the reason he has to burn through those cards is because Junk Arm discards cards from your hand. And then, in order to refill your hand, you're going to need supporters that draw cards from your deck. So even things like Oak's New Theory, even though they shuffle your hand in, when your hand is so small, you know, you just draw a bunch of cards, basically, and he's going to deck out if he does that. Now, the thing I have to worry about is Cleffa. I might never be able to knock that out with all the flips involved. But, yeah, it might turn into a decking war. That's kind of what I feel like this will turn into, because we'll just hit a brick wall where neither of us can knock each other out, unless I flip heads. So, I'm kind of worried about a Seeker, double plus power. You know, it's unlikely with his hand, but it is a possibility. But here we go, Bone Rush, 1 heads. We got 2 heads. I think that's a knockout. Score 2 for Cubone. Down goes Zekrom. And we are back in this game. Alright, there's a Bone Rush, and apparently Bone Rush involves you punching your opponent somehow. Not sure how either of those involves a bone, but there we go. Zekrom's knocked out either way. So, we've taken down 2 Zekroms with Cubone. What's next? Well, Zekrom is next. So, we're going to see my opponent Eek here, I think, unless he's got a supporter. Actually puts a defender onto Cleffa to make it even more unlikely that I knock him out. You know, he can... I think he's scared at this point. He's scared of Cubone, and I would be too. Just look at how much damage Cubone's caused. Look at how fierce he looks. Look at that skull on his head. Nobody wants to mess with Cubone. And he's just got that giant bone in his hand saying, "You better get away, or else." And Zekrom, you know, he stood up to Cubone. He didn't heed the warning, and he got the or else part of it. And now look where he is, in the discard pile. So, here we see Cleffa did stay asleep. And, you know, my opponent has 2 prizes left. That's 2 Cubones to knock out. Are there enough? Oh, there's a Super Scoop Up Tails. That could have been big. What I was going to say is, are there enough resources left for my opponent to actually knock out Cubones? We've seen interviewers' questions. He's got 8 cards left in his deck. So here's what I'm talking about. He could run out of cards in his deck before he's able to actually knock me out. There's 2 lightning off the interviewer, so he does have at least 2 left to keep attacking. But can one Zekrom take down 2 Cubones? I can't imagine he has too many energy left in his deck if he just played an interviewer for 8, or his remaining 8 cards, and he only got 2 lightning off of it. Those might be his last 2 energy, and if this last Zekrom goes down, he might just lose. That could be it. He could just be out of energy, and then the game's over. So, where do we go from here? Just taking a look, there's a few junk arms gone, a couple plus powers, so there's still a possibility that something could go wrong here. But we see catcher's out the Cubone, but I don't even have to worry because the Cleffa stays asleep. Then it wakes up. You know, I don't need to bother retreating because, well, Cleffa stayed asleep. Why burn an energy? In that case, he could just catcher out the Cubone again and just lose an energy for no reason. So now he's got to decide what's the best way to go about knocking out 2 Cubones when I'm only doing 20 damage a turn. And Cubone has the potential to Bone Rush for infinite damage, and my Zekrom could just be knocked down in 1 hit. So what is going to be the plan of action? We see he put down a lightning on that Zekrom. Not sure why he put it on the other one. I gotta assume he doesn't have enough energy to keep attacking the whole game. And so it looks like he did take that back. So now we're gonna have to see, can Cubone finish the job? Can Cubone pull out the major upset and defeat goGoGOAL, who has 797 wins? Is it possible? So we have a Bolt Strike here, and I draw a double colorless. Alright, go for that. And as I said before, there's that potion coming into play. So potion off the 20 damage, and we go for it, man. That's all there is to it. So here's 1 heads. The thing we don't want is 2 heads. There's 2 heads. We need a 3rd one, otherwise this could get ugly. And there's the 3rd heads. Cubone! Cubone has done it. 3 heads, 4 heads. How far will he go? 4 heads. Alright, so we have a Bone Rush. Once again, using his Fists of Bone Rush Fury. Weakness for 160. Cubone, 3, Zekrom, in the discard. What will my opponent do next? 5 cards left in his deck. 3 Zekroms down. Probably out of energy at this point. Has Cubone actually done the unthinkable? Has Cubone won the game? We'll find out soon, I think. Something that could happen is it just gets into a war with Cleffa, and I just never knock it out, and I deck out. That's certainly a possibility, but in that case I would have a revive for my own Cleffa. Also have Oak's New Theory to prevent myself from decking. So we could be at a bit of a stalemate, depending on how many heads I flip. And there we go, my opponent concedes. Cubone has done it. The mighty Cubone Rush has overtaken the mighty Zekrom. So, that was kind of a fun game that I just wanted to share. You know, MVP Cubone, dealt 400 damage, biggest attack 160, so even healed a little damage there. So hope you guys had fun with that. I know I did. This was a fun game. when it happened. It happened in the live stream, so everybody was going crazy when Cubone took down the Zekroms. It's funny seeing these decks actually come out on top every once in a while. So, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. So, just check out other stuff. You know, we got our Twitter and Facebook page. Follow us there if you want to know when we do our live streams. Usually happens around 10 or 11 Eastern time. Sort of. It's every night for the most part. So there's that. And also check out our website, thetopcut.net, because we remodeled it. Drew Holton, he spent a lot of time remodeling the site. It looks all nice and clean now, so take a look there. Give us some feedback on that. And other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.